very big thank you to Lead Africa. And I want to thank in a very special way Timmy once again for putting this whole idea together. I'm actually very excited to announce that amidst the social crisis and the political and health chaos of 2020, the team at GPAD and Lead Africa, who found it really, really interesting to also flag up the second program within the Lead Africa project. Now we are on the GPAD, the Global Partnership for African Development, but we also have the Lead Africa International Academy. And beyond the health crisis of the COVID situation, I think we all would agree that the spectacular and distressing murder of George Floyd also sent a shockwave around the world and again brought to the table or put back on the front burner for the upton time the question around social and racial discourse around the world. And these are some of the things we also engaged. And when we think about partnership for growth and development and recovery in Africa, we also think about the well-being of the African diaspora because it plays a huge role in developing Africa back home. So this year we flagged up the Lead Africa International Academy. It was open for application and over 50 people applied from around the world. And we're very excited, but we also had limitations. We could not admit everybody, but eventually we got like 20 people who participated in a 3-day, very engaging program. And at the session for this year, we asked some very pertinent questions. One of them is, how do we adjust professionally to a COVID or a post-COVID world as offices and workplaces daily relocate into homes and private places? What opportunities also exist for the Black diaspora within the economic system in Europe and around the world? Then how do we develop new approaches to engage questions of representation and racial bias and bigotry of our world today? We also want to question the existing body of knowledge on the Black body and the perception of Africans. And then fourthly, we also considered how do we reposition leadership in Black communities to serve the people, taking to heart the dynamics of an ever-changing or evolving world. So at Lead Africa, you can see that our approach is actually, it's two-pronged because we bring in together the experts and people in places of authority, giving us a platform to speak to power, but at the same time, we also want to initiate conversation from the grassroots. So this year, we thought that the team of the Lead Academy will be lead from where you are, and everybody actually has opportunity to explore their leadership potentials. We look forward in the coming years to expanding the frontiers of the Lead Africa Academy so that we'll have the opportunity to engage more people. Without taking much of your time, I will just yield the floor to two people, two very great candidates who participated at the Lead Academy, and they will be presenting on two pertinent issues that we thought will be brought to the public today. And one of them is a question around Black recognition around the world. And the second one will be the Black identity crisis. So I would invite Jennifer Mushegera, who would actually take the floor now and make her presentation and the work of our group on Black recognition. Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Tony. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished guests and honorable guests. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our project on behalf of Kingsley Dibi, Joseph Okuchu, and Raisampunu. As Tony mentioned, we worked on the lack of recognition of Black achievements, the limited visibility of Black contributions, the exclusion of Black voices in decision-making. And as we were working on those topics and thinking about this theme and this issue, we realized that the lack of recognition really varies from scope, reason, and extent from sector to sector and from society to society. But we identified one challenge, one issue that really reaches around the world, which is the lack of recognition of Africans in global and African-related academia. The problem with that is that One, we have seen that there are not many Africans that are represented in international journals, in international academic journals, but also that African journals, academic journals, are not recognized globally. So that clearly leads to a lack of visibility of African contributions, of Black contributions, of Black excellence and role models. The second issue that we have identified with that as well is that there have been experiences with professors who have taken credit from their students, from their work, and made it their own, thereby exploiting African intellect for their own benefit, and again, deliberately ignoring Black achievement. What that does at the end is that, one, the story of Africa, the realities of the African continent are told from a different perspective, not reflecting the realities on the ground and the perspectives of the people who are living those realities. And also the story is not being told from people who have experienced these very issues that are talked about. Secondly, it also discourages people who want to enter academia because they will think that their contributions are not going to be won't matter and won't be seen. And a lot of the things that we talked about in the last 3 days was that there needs to be a change of curriculum for African people in the diaspora to learn about their history, to learn where they're from, but also for people on the continent to also learn about their history. And we all know that it is professors, they are the researchers, the people in academia who will create those curriculums, who will create those books that we will learn from. So it's definitely necessary that we encourage people to continue their work in academia, and that we give them the platform to present their work and give them a seat at the table for their contributions in academia. So we were asked to work on recommendations, and we have worked on short-term, medium-term, and long-term recommendations. Our first short-term recommendation is to create a database where we really make an inventory of who is out there, what has been worked on, what are other fields that need to be worked on in the future, how can we collaborate together and put our resources together, and just really see the work that has been made and that has been done in the past, and the capacities that we have as African scholars. The second short-term solution we have is to leverage the resources of Black advocacy groups in universities to advocate on topics like intellectual property and access to African scholars for students. Because one of the issues is that many say it is very difficult to find works of African scholars. So with the database that we will have, we'll be able to present to students, to professors, that here are people who have actually done the work, and here are the resources that you can use for your research. The medium and long-term solution that we have is a international body, an international organ called the African Scholars Hub, with the slogan Africans First, because it is very important that Africans and the ones who are living the experiences are the ones who are telling the stories first. With that hub, we want to give access to funds for research, because everyone that is in academia, everyone that does research knows that it's very difficult to get funding. And we want to support researchers in getting funds, but also being able to give out grants for people in research. We, with the database that we have, want to be the hub for material on and for African scholars. And we also want to create and enable partnerships between African scholars and researchers and people who are working on, for instance, documentaries on African-related topics, but also seek out those initiatives, groups, organizations that are doing projects in Africa to make sure that the resources that they use are also based or with people that have actually made these experiences and have done work on that. Talking of intellectual property, we want to provide legal support to make sure that the people who really want to fight for the rights that they have when it comes to intellectual property and similar issues that they may have with professors, that they have a net, that they have a pillow that they can rely on that will support them and fight with them. And again, promote African scholars, writers, researchers, and just generally African academia to make it and to make sure that it has a place when it comes to global academia. So that were the recommendations of Group 3. I hope I didn't go too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jenny. I think that sums up the whole conversation. Thank you so much. And I'm sure, I don't know if people have reactions. Maybe you could just put something down in the chat box. I will yield the floor immediately to Jeremiah.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Many thanks to the team at Lead Africa for such an interesting and very insightful academy. We very much young Africans from on the continent and those in the diaspora were equipped on the values of leadership and also on the values of our Black bodies. I'm a representative of Group 4. If you could kindly put up the presentation. I'm a representative of Group 4, and under Group 4, we discussed Black identity crisis, the lack of unity and stereotypes. And under this, we talked about basically the tension between Africans and people of African descent. We also talked about Africa's portrayal in Western media. We talked about the perception of the Black communities in the Western world, and also the prejudices against Africans with Western borders. Our team was involved with included a diverse group of people. This was me, Jeremiah Sekaria from Uganda, where I'm currently based. We're also joined by Farina Finke, who is a Nigerian from Germany. We're also joined by Dario Mbolo, he's non-Ghanaian, he's a Cameroonian, also based in Germany. And also Elroy Mesfin Abate from Ethiopia, and Mochisuela Montuabantu from South Africa. So it shows you the diversity of the group, even as much as we all are of African descent. Some of the challenges that we identified as we discussed this topic. Number one was on wrong stereotypes. If you go to the next slide, please, on wrong stereotypes. And this is because the African image is propagated in Western media as one of pictures of this sort, like the one you see on the screen right now, depicting children in hunger, depicting wars, depicting all these bad things that we hear about it. This is not to say that these things do not exist. However, if we want to foster development and we want to foster trade on the African continent, there is no way such an image can lure private investors into coming and doing business on the continent. So, and this challenge is not one that is only seen by people who are of the Western world. It's also, even us Africans, we have a duty, and many of us, to further our goals, we have seen this happen. The other issue that we faced was a lack of appreciation of our differences, and this from the diversity in our group, we saw that even as Africans, West Africans, North Africans, East Africans, we have differences in culture, we have differences in language. Now here we centered on things like, for example, xenophobia, which is an issue that should not even find foot in our society in any way, because as Africans we have a common, in a way, when we put it like a common idea, we have an aspect of Ubuntu, of brotherhood in us, and from time immemorial we've always been a cordial to one another. So this a lack of appreciation as always is being of our differences is being an issue. The other issue that we saw was inadequacy in knowledge of the value of our Black bodies, and this has caused many of us young Africans to commoditize our Black bodies, you know, because you want and a certain Western organization wants to further and show that they affiliate with Black people, so they will put in one small Black person to just be the face, but whose views are not heard, whose views are not even respected. Yeah. So the other one we'll see is the false propaganda based about Western culture. It's also another challenge that we found. This is basically propagated by the Africans who have moved to the Western world and try to depict the picture as all a bed of roses. But we see, even when we do more research, that some of these things are not the way they are. Many African people have been forced to make the travel across the Mediterranean. They have lost their lives in pursuit of apparently a better life, which we have seen has not been the case. And as a result, Africa has lost a lot of young talent to such a crisis. And after analyzing these issues, these are some of the solutions that we came about with. We came about with the solutions of midterm and also solutions of the long term. The first solution that we came about with was we need to advocate for African history to be included in Western mainstream education. The reason I mentioned this is because growing up as a child in Uganda, I always studied about a little bit about Uganda and then a lot about Western history. You know, now after my interactions with a number of people in the projects that we've worked with, exchanging ideas between Uganda and also students in Germany, we found that there was a laxity in African history in Western mainstream education. These children didn't know anything about Africa. Now, it's upon us as young African leaders who have reached this global stage to advocate for such things. And then also, as we do that, we also need to advocate for a decolonization of the African education system. And this, luckily, has been a sentiment that has been shared throughout the GPAD conference thus far. So that will mean a complete overhaul in many places on the various curriculums that countries are implementing in their education systems. And then also we need to be involved as young African leaders in policy making decisions. Yeah, one of the issues that even Professor Strath has mentioned this earlier on, that there is lack of a political will, even as much as we want to foster development in these areas. However, as young people, the question is, what are you doing about it? Our theme for this year and in the Lead Academy was leading from where we are. So involvement in policy making decisions will mean that we need to increase on that literature, increase on writing about the gap analysis in the laws, involvement in things like membership in parliament, you know, taking up these leadership roles, both at the local and also at the national stage. Then we also need to encourage publishing and reading of African literature. There is an absurd saying that goes, if you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book. But that should not be the way that as we steer growth and recovery of the continent, we need to encourage more of these things. We have young, brilliant minds who have come up with a lot of literature on our history, on our way of life, on the future that we want, and a lot of this is not curated anywhere. And this is that's also one of the short-term solutions that we found. We also came up with long-term solutions. Long-term solutions are the solutions that we saw could be achieved over a longer period of time. This is a period of above 24 months. One of the solutions that we found was the long-term solution that we found was assuming responsibility, number one, in shaping the dialogue to change the Black narrative. Now, what does this mean? This means that we need to encourage publishing and reading of African literature, number one. We need to advocate for history. Now, all these are a universal set, as a subset of the universal set on assuming responsibility. The other thing that we found was we need to also educate Africans in the diaspora about their African history themselves, so that they can grow up empowered, you know, so that they can grow up knowing where they come from, in a way to also devise solutions for for the future that we want. As a group, we realized that we needed to tap into these digital platforms, and this means that we needed to foster dialogue and also encourage mentorship of young African talent. We've seen a few Africans, a number of Africans who have gone on to make it and also be influential on the global stage. It's up to those people to come back to Africa and also mentor other young people as we assume the roles and achieve the Africa that we want. We also finally realized that we need to put together African businesses in the diaspora with African businesses on the continent so that we can be able to foster these growths. And we have seen even throughout the conference that it's in this value addition of in a growth of the supply value addition chain that we will be able to achieve the growth that we would like. Thank you so much for your indulgence. That was our work. And as we say on the next slide in Uganda, mwebale nnyo, which means thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremiah, and a very big thanks to Jenny. We are really, really proud of what you guys have done throughout the Lead Academy for this year, and we look forward to carrying on this conversation and engaging further, even as we build, bridge, and close up the ties between Africa and Africans and then the African diaspora. Thank you very much, and we look forward to continuing this conversation with every one of you. I yield the floor back to Laura.